The first thing I heard wasn't the water lapping against the dock or the distant cry of a gull. It was the scream of sirens cutting through the quiet night, loud, shrill, and aimed straight at me. HOA. Karen had called 911 claiming my boat was illegally moored on property she thought she ruled. What she didn't know was that I owned the entire marina she was standing on, and when I showed her the deed, the look on her face was worth every penny I ever spent. I was on the deck of my boat, the salty dog, polishing a brass cleat that didn't need polishing. Old habit, I guess. My wife Lisa was inside the cabin, her face glowing green in the radar light as she checked weather patterns. She ran our little World Wires camera schedules, all of it. I just kept things shiny. When I heard those sirens and saw the flashing blue lights bouncing off the water, I sighed. Showtime. The deputies walked down the ramp, their boots thudding against the planks. And there she was, Karen Lucas, president of the Rain Cove Homeowners Association, standing tall in her white blazer, clipboard in hand, phone pressed to her ear like it was a royal decree. Unauthorized vessel, she barked. Non-compliant mooring. Violation 12C. I just stood there, hands in my pockets. The deputies approached like I was some kind of pirate. Evening, sir, one said. We got a report about an unpermitted boat docked here. I nodded. Did that report happen to come from a woman who looks like she's about to fine you for having your shoes untied? The younger cop checked his laces. I smiled. Relax, son. You're in code. They asked for my paperwork. I handed over a laminated deed, the crown jewel. The deputy's flashlight swept across it once, twice, then stopped. His eyes flicked up to me. Sir, this says you're the owner of Rain Cove Marina. I could see Karen stiffen her smile, freezing mid-expression. When the deputy handed her the paper, her face turned red, then white, then red again. She sputtered something about forgery. I told her calmly, certified copy from the county clerk, ma'am. The original's in my safe deposit box. HOA had first refusal, you passed. The cops left. She didn't. She just stood there on the dock, shaking with rage. This isn't over, Cressley, she hissed. I smiled. According to the deed, Karen, it actually is. The next morning, I woke to find a bright orange violation notice stuck to my cabin window. Improper cleat hitch technique. $50 fine. I laughed out loud. Lisa read it and said, frame it. Bathroom art. But I knew what it meant. Karen wasn't done. Soon, there were more. My power cord was too long. My truck's tire was touching a white line. Each ticket was pettier than the last. Lisa and I decided to fight absurdity with absurdity. We rigged a motion sensor under the dock and wired it to an air horn. The next night, when Karen tried to stick another notice to my hull, the horn went off like a freight train. The whole cove lit up. She sprinted away, blazer flapping. Round one to the Cressleys. Then came the glitter bomb. Lisa coated a GPS tracker in purple glitter and stuck it under the dock near the power pedestal. Sure enough, a few nights later it pinged from Karen's house, and at the next mail pickup her perfect white blazer sparkled like a disco ball. The neighbors saw. They didn't say a word, but the smirks said plenty. That should have been the end. But bullies don't stop when they lose, they just change tactics. The next day, my truck had a neon green sticker on the door, final notice vehicle to be towed. That was her shot across the bow. I decided to return the favor. At 6 a.m. sharp, the neighborhood woke to the joyful blast of a polka song blaring from my boat's speakers. Who stole the kishka? Directly aimed at her house. People came outside in robes, half annoyed, half entertained. The tow truck never came. Still, I could feel the tide turning darker. I checked the HOA bulletin one night and saw a developer's name. Sterling Development. Reimagine Rain Cove Waterfront. Then it disappeared from the site the next day. My gut twisted. This wasn't about rules anymore. It was about money. At the next HOA meeting, I walked in with two big poster boards. One had an aerial map of Rain Cove with the property lines marked in red. I showed the room where HOA property ended and where my marina began. Then I put up the second board, my certified deed. This, I told everyone, is what ownership looks like. Karen's smile froze again. The residents began murmuring. One asked about launch fees, another about boat access. I announced that all HOA fees for the marina were void. Free access for residents effective immediately. The applause drowned her out. Karen's power cracked that night, but it didn't break, and silence followed. Too much silence. A week later, a storm rolled in, 50-mile winds, angry gray skies, the kind of weather that tests everything you've tied down. Lisa was at the radar tracking the storm when she frowned. "Lewis, there's a rainbow sheen near slip 12. We checked the cameras. It wasn't light, it was oil. Diesel fuel spreading under the dock." My stomach dropped. I grabbed my rain gear and ran out into the howling wind. The smell hit first sharp chemical, unmistakable. Someone had poured diesel directly into the water. My boat was spotless. This wasn't a leak, it was sabotage. "She's framing us," I told Lisa when I got back inside. "She wants the Coast Guard to shut the marina down, make me look negligent. Then the developer buys it for pennies." Lisa nodded slowly. "So what do we do?" I took a deep breath. "We call the Coast Guard, but on our terms." I phoned the duty officer directly. "Petty Officer Cole. I said we've got a diesel spill intentional, I think. HOA president's behind it. I can prove it if you give me time." He listened, then said, "We'll have a response boat standing by. Quiet. You say the word Mayday, and we move." That night, we waited. The storm hammered the marina. Waves slapped the hull. Rain screamed against the glass. Around 2 a.m., Lisa whispered, "Camera 3. Movement. A figure in a dark rain slicker was creeping along the dock, staying low, avoiding the lights. They carried a small bag. They stopped near slip 10 and crouched. My pulse spiked. "Got you," I muttered and slipped outside. The wind nearly knocked me over. I crept closer through the rain until I was 10 feet away. The figure had a knife-short serrated cutting at something beneath the boat. Then the hood slipped back. Buddy James, HOA's handyman. Young, nervous, the kind of guy who thought following orders meant safety. "Buddy," I shouted over the storm, "that's enough." He jumped eyes wide, knife trembling in his hand. I was just checking the lines. By cutting them, I stepped closer. He panicked and lunged clumsy, desperate. I sidestepped, twisted his wrist, and the knife clattered to the planks. "Bad line cut," I growled. $50 fine." He tried to wriggle free, slipped, and we both hit the dock hard. Rain hammered down as I pinned him. "She said nobody'd get hurt," he cried. "She said it was just a prank." Then, through the wind, I heard Lisa screaming over the radio. "Lewis, the Miller's boat. Its lines just snapped. They're adrift." I looked up. The family's small runabout was already sliding into open water waves, shoving it toward the rocks, and I knew their 2 kids were aboard. I shoved Buddy against a piling. "You move, you drown," I yelled. He nodded, terrified. I sprinted down the dock lungs, burning the world, tilting in spray and darkness. The boat was drifting fast. I didn't think I ran and jumped. For 1 second, I was flying through rain and noise. I slammed into the hull, barely grabbing the rail. My arm screamed, but I pulled myself aboard. Inside, Tom Miller was trying to start the dead engine. "The lines just snapped," he shouted. "No, they were cut," I barked. "Get your kids in life jackets." The engine was dry, fuel line bled out. Another sabotage. We were powerless, drifting straight for the rocks. "Lisa," I yelled into the radio, "we're dead in the water." Her voice came back steady despite the panic. "Drop the anchor. Lewis Bow. Cleat 2 wraps, let it run." I hauled the anchor up, released it into the Black Sea. For 1 long second, nothing. Then, a violent jerk, the chain went taut. The bow swung hard. We stopped barely 20 yards from the rocks. And then finally the flash of blue lights through the rain. The Coast Guard cutter appeared like a miracle. Buddy was arrested, soaked and shaking. Under questioning, he confessed everything. Karen had paid him cash to stick fake tickets, pour diesel, and cut lines. She told him it was for the good of the community. The text messages on his phone told the real story. "Wait for the storm. Make it look like an accident. The old man will be finished." But the texts didn't stop there. They mentioned Sterling Development payments meetings, wire transfers, a contract for $10,000 a month, and $1 million bonus when the marina changed hands. The district attorney called an emergency meeting the next morning on a floating barge right in the center of the marina. The entire neighborhood came. Karen arrived late, wearing navy blue and fake confidence. Her lawyer whispered in her ear, while she smiled like she still had control. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. I just pulled the sheets off 3 giant boards. The first, my deed county certified. The second, a consulting contract between Sterling Development and Karen's shell company. The third, her text messages to Buddy James blown up in black and white. Cut the lines on slip 4. Make it look like an accident. The crowd went silent. Then came the whispers, then the shouting. She sold us out, someone yelled. Karen's face crumbled. It's fake, she screamed. He's lying. I did this for the community. The sheriff stepped forward, voice calm. Karen Lucas, you're under arrest for conspiracy, destruction of property, and filing a false report. The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed across the water, and just like that, her power vanished. For the first time since I'd arrived in Rain Cove, the air felt clean. I looked out across the calm marina, the sunrise breaking through the storm clouds, and thought about everything she'd tried to take my home, my peace, my dignity. In the end, all it took to bring her down was a laminated deed, a few cameras, and the truth. Because sometimes proof is stronger than power.